I'm ready.
Welcome to the podcast, Rochelle.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be here.
Okay, well, nice, great having you. So let's just get started. I know you've been doing SpringFour for quite some time now, but let's just get started with giving the listeners a little bit of background about what you've done in your career, particularly before SpringFour.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I've spent my entire career, more than 25 years, working with financial institutions and nonprofits to create affordable lending products, helping people get into home ownership. And then, of course, how do we make certain when people are in homes that we can create sustainable home ownership opportunities? So that led me to do a lot of work around foreclosure intervention. I helped create some of the first ever foreclosure intervention programs in the country, home ownership preservation initiative through Chicago Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago, along with the city of Chicago. And I actually worked with then Senator Obama to create some of the first state regulations against predatory lending. So my experience ranges from program development to policy and advocacy work, really focusing in on how do we help create good, affordable lending products that help increase and revitalize neighborhoods and increase people's opportunity to home ownership.
Right. Okay. And then what led to the founding of SpringFour? What was sort of the catalyst, the idea you had there?
Yeah, so I had been working on a consulting project. So I left Neighborhood Housing Services of Chicago in 2005 when my first daughter was born. And I started consulting, and I was working for a large mortgage servicer, trying to better understand their workflow when they were serving delinquent borrowers. And in a conversation I had with a servicer at the time, they were sharing and telling me that their call center agents were able to look upon their screens and look at the foreclosure laws, because foreclosure laws vary state by state. Mm-hmm. And so they needed to understand what those laws were when they were dealing with a delinquent borrower. And I really had an aha moment that led me to think, well, if it's possible for a call center agent to see various foreclosure laws, what if we were able to populate their screen with the various different nonprofit and government resources that were available to assist borrowers when they were behind on their mortgage? So that was the idea behind SpringFour. And my co-founder and I, Dr. Michael Collins, he now leads the Center for Financial Security at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He and I decided we would figure out a way to build the technology that would make it easy and efficient for lenders to connect borrowers to vetted nonprofit and government resources where they live.
Okay. And you launched before the last financial crisis, right? So
we did. We saw the writing on the wall, and we had been working in the communities and really had an understanding that when people get into financial difficulties and challenges, they really don't know where to turn for help. I think today it's still true. There's a lot of shame attached to financial difficulties. So people weren't sharing their issues, their troubles. So they didn't know about resources, often right in their own backyard. And yet we knew there were lots of different nonprofits available to assist people. And so we wanted to build that bridge to make that connection happen. And we also knew that banks who had, very large portfolios of troubled borrowers spread across the country, they too needed that information, because it's really, a lender, it's not really their job to understand and figure out all of the various different nonprofits in all of the communities that they have loans and borrowers.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because obviously the last financial crisis was really led by real estate and some of the bad real estate practices. And it sounds like your background was very well suited to that. But this crisis is different, and it's not led by real estate, and it may end up, we don't know exactly how bad it's going to be. We just found out today that the GDP in the second quarter was negative 32 point something percent. Yeah. So, which are an all-time record. So we know that people are going to be struggling, and I know people have been struggling. Obviously, a lot of people have become unemployed. So I'd love to get a sense of the overall, the arc of your company and your offerings this year. So we started January and February and things are pretty normal. How have things kind of escalated for you guys since March?
Escalation is a good word to describe it. You know, I think the word of the year is unprecedented. We're seeing an unprecedented level of interest and demand for SpringFour. Right when COVID hit, we knew that we were and we should be part of the solution. SpringFour was built to help people when they experience a financial crisis. So this is really right in our wheelhouse. It's what we were, you know, built to do. Certainly, I never imagined that we would be operating during a global pandemic, but I'm very proud of what we've built and our ability to get it out quickly to assist the financial institutions and their borrowers. So our team quickly got to work to increase our tech capacity so that we could increase our time to deployment. We already have a fast time to deployment with large financial institutions because we're not directly integrating into any of their systems, but we took that time from 30 days down to 2 weeks. So anyone that's interested in working with SpringFour, they can get our solution out very quickly to be able to assist their borrowers and their customers. And then we also, our data team knew from our experience what type of resources people would need, and they got busy researching and vetting additional COVID-19 resources. So within 2 weeks, we built out 3 new service categories: COVID-19 financial, health, and financial assistance, so that our borrowers could present those, our customers, our clients could present those to their borrowers front and center and utilize SpringFour as part of their COVID-19 response.
Right. So who are the kind of lenders that you're working with? I know you've worked with some traditional banks and fintechs, but maybe I'd love to get a sense of who you were working with before and who has come calling in the last few months.
Yeah, sure. So we have built up a very impressive track record working with financial institutions of all sizes and types, including fintechs and credit unions. We also work with nonprofit organizations. So we've worked with anyone from BMO Harris Bank to US Bank to KeyBank to fintech organizations like LendUp, Opportune, Inova. Elevate is one of our newest clients. We are super excited to see that many banks, again, of all types and sizes, have come to us since COVID-19 hit. We've actually done 10 deployments since January. So as you know, in this area of fintech and building relationships with banks, it can take a long time to put those partnerships together. So the fact that we've done 10 already this year and we have several more in the pipeline, meaning that we're working through the contracts right now and already working in to do deployment documents with those organizations. So I can't name everyone today, and I wish I could, but I will say that a handful of them represent institutions in the top 10 financial institution category. So I believe that financial institutions understand that they should and can be part of the solution for people who are suffering as a result of COVID-19. So they have come to us, they understand that we deliver and we can create impacts for the bank's bottom line and for their customers. So I think what we're seeing is the result of a 15-year journey, right? Like it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, patience, and the ability to deliver. And we have all of those things and we have what people need right now. So it's been very validating, but yet humbling too. And we're just very proud to be able to serve during this time.
So I'd like to sort of dig into a real concrete example if we could. And let's just say I'm a borrower. I have a loan with XYZ Bank that happens to be have the SpringFour system, and I call in and I say, you know what, I don't have a job anymore. I can't pay down this loan. What does the call center representative say?
Yeah, so that's a perfect example. So a call center rep that has access to the SpringFour Pro tool, which is a call center tool, it was built for call center agents to be able to deliver vetted, curated financial health resources when someone is struggling to pay. So there's a couple of ways that our clients do it. They either just off the bat offer SpringFour referrals to every client, understanding and knowing that most people will react positively and benefit from vetted financial health resources. The other thing that can happen is they're trained to listen in for cues to understand what is getting in the way of that person making a payment, and then being able to provide directed resources in that category. So with SpringFour, we've built up essentially a database of over 25 spending or service categories. So anything from food savings to help reducing prescription drug costs, reducing heating and utility costs, financial counseling, employment resources is a big one right now, certainly. So when they hear those cues, they can ask that borrower, well, Peter, it sounds like you're really struggling with unexpected medical expenses or high prescription drug costs. Would you like to receive a referral for a nonprofit that provides assistance in those areas? And then they'll go ahead and either verbally give that to the borrower over the phone and or send off an email to that borrower so that they know where to turn for help. And it's really important to note that with SpringFour, we're only making referrals to nonprofit and government agencies. The idea is we want to route people to organizations whose mission it is to assist them. Unfortunately, what we saw during the last crisis, and unfortunately it's not any different today with the pandemic, there's lots of unscrupulous actors out there that prey on people who are experiencing financial challenges.
Right, right. So I want to just dig in a little bit to, you talk about nonprofit and government agencies, and obviously not all nonprofits are created equal. Not all government agencies are created equal.
Right.
How do you know? Because obviously this is a local problem. You're not going to go. You want to send someone to their local neighborhood. How do you know?
Exactly.
Here in Denver, Colorado, where I'm sitting, how do you know that? The food security help, or the employment help, or whatever it is you're referring to, how do you know that they are still doing a good job? They're not like completely overwhelmed, and how do you know that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm happy to answer that because it's truly one of our differentiators. So the way that our solution works, we employ a professional data team. So everyone that is on our data team has a background in community development and nonprofit work. So they really have an understanding, a kind of foundation or core understanding of nonprofits, how they deliver their services, and what it takes to make a good organization. So we are not doing any internet scraping. We do this the old-fashioned way with real people, calling organizations, finding out about, assessing their track record, reputation to assist, and funding levels. And I'm glad you also mentioned, funding, because it is a challenge right now. Organizations are seeing, huge surges in demand for their resources. So one of the values that we deliver to our clients is we are consistently, I want to say almost constantly, reviewing the organizations in our database, making sure that they have the capacity to serve. We never want to direct a borrower to a dead end. And you can imagine working with financial institutions, very high reputational risk. So we make sure our data is very clean, very up to date, very accurate. We've built a proprietary data portal, and we have systems in place that allow us to regularly vet those organizations. And once an organization is in the SpringFour platform, we go back in and make certain that they're still able to deliver on that promise of service. One of the reasons we built the COVID-19 categories was to really stay on top of what is happening in those highly needed categories, so that, again, any organization that is in SpringFour has the ability to provide services.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So how often, are you going back? Is it monthly, 6 monthly? How often do you go back to every single?
It's weekly now. Yeah, it's that important.
Right.
And so, we have built our company on a record of trust and integrity in providing good quality resources. Also, I should add, our intention was never to be the Google of every organization in a particular market. We really are drilling down to make certain that the organizations that we have in our database are really great at what they do. And you're right, not all nonprofits are treated equally. So we're making sure that any organization in there is doing a great job servicing its clients.
Right. So how many in the database?
Over 15,000. And
Okay.
that number continues to grow. We're in 575 cities today. That will continue to grow as well. We also have state and national resources. So that's why we're really well suited to work with a large financial institution that has, customers all across the country. So no matter where a person lives, they can find assistance and help through SpringFour.
Right. Okay. And then what about, I'm curious about your customers, and obviously when you pitch this, there's got to be, they're not going to take it on unless they feel like there's a real return on the investment. What
Right.
is the return on investment for your clients here? Because obviously it's going to cost money, probably significant money for large banks to have your service. So what do you tell them?
Yeah, well, number one, it's going to impact their bottom line. So we believe that when people are experiencing financial challenges, it's because something's happening in their life that gets in the way of that payment. So by utilizing SpringFour, we address that root cause and we get people paying and saving again. So each of our subscribers is different, but they see significant repayment rates increase as a result of utilizing SpringFour. But what's great and what we've learned through the years is, and that was our number one sort of thesis or premise, was that we would definitely be able to impact repayment rates. But what we've also seen is a huge benefit to our subscribers on borrower engagement, trust. Their borrowers are appreciative of getting these referrals. In addition, the call center employees that utilize SpringFour report being able to provide better customer service. They feel more positive about the role that they're playing at the bank. So we're really changing the tone of the conversation and the outcome that's happening at the call center, because now we've equipped a call center agent with the ability to provide empathy, to be able to provide, the sense that they're listening to what's happening in that borrower's lives and help them down that journey to a positive resolution. And we consistently survey the agents that utilize our tool, and it's always in the 90% percentile that they feel better equipped and see more positive resolutions or outcomes because of SpringFour. So it really is a win-win-win. But I think number one, you have to start with what is, a bank's self-interest, and it is repayment rate.
Right.
But then all these other things combine to really create a full package. And we hear time and time again when we're on calls with our clients that, well, this seems like a no-brainer.
Right, that's nice. So I'm curious, then, do any of your clients use this proactively as sort of a marketing tool where, you don't want to encourage people to sort of postpone payment, but I think as resources, I could imagine that particularly, there's always going to be a certain segment, before this crisis as well, a certain segment that are always struggling.
Right.
So is this a proactive tool or is it always reactive?
It's not always reactive. And I think it's really great and interesting to see a client of ours, a subscriber, use it proactively. So many of our subscribers will utilize it to tweet out the availability of these products and or the resources. And when they do, they see their usage skyrocket. A lot of our subscribers have positioned SpringFour now on their COVID-19 response pages. So yes, it's responding to, the current situation we're in with COVID-19 and the pandemic, but it's also proactive, right? So they're putting that out there front and center. Hey, if you need assistance, we're here for you. And the usage has really dramatically increased when they do that. We also have some clients who are using it in bank branches, although, many branches are not open today, but they have used it in bank branches to further that conversation or have something to be helpful if somebody comes in with issues. Right.
Okay. And I want to get to this report that you emailed me, which I thought was really interesting, showing the trends, the trends that you've seen in your business in the referrals, particularly for financial assistance. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can give us just a quick summary of the report that you just recently put out.
Sure. Well, I guess most importantly has been the huge increase in demand and the referrals that are going out. So I think collectively with our subscribers, we are having an impact and delivering needed resources in a moment of crisis for many consumers. So already this year, we've made over 1.6 million referrals. In the month of May alone, we made nearly 500,000 referrals. So that is dramatically increased. Last year, we made a total of 1.2 million referrals. So by the end of June, we've already eclipsed that significantly, and we know the demand is continuing. And we actually have been hearing from a lot of subscribers and a lot of organizations in our pipeline that they're very fearful that this fall is going to be even worse because, assistance is running out, right? Tomorrow, I believe it's tomorrow, the eviction moratorium ends and 23 million people could find themselves in serious jeopardy of not having anywhere to live. So it's pretty dramatic what's going on out there. And so we have demand for referrals increasing. We're seeing demand for referrals in food is number one, financial assistance number two. So food, financial, employment, of course, is number three, followed by utility assistance. So I think that really paints a picture of what people are facing. Having food be the number one or most frequently requested referral resource says to me that people are very much struggling.
Yeah, you see it on the news and people like saying, I've never been to a food bank in my life, and here I am because we need assistance. And I know lots of the food banks throughout the country are really full right now, or really, they are really providing more assistance than probably ever before. So I want to ask about is this always used in the collections area, in the loan servicing type area? Are there any other use cases for your product?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you asked that, Peter, because we'll be releasing a report next month, so mid-August, where we did a survey of low and moderate income consumers about the availability of resources and do they know where to turn. And what was interesting to me was that 60% of people said that they did not know where to turn for resources when they were experiencing financial difficulty, but over 80% of people said that they would want to receive information and believe that their bank is a trusted source of that information. So I think there's a use case for making certain that people can have this information from a bank. And they also said that they would be interested in receiving it after applying for a loan, a credit card, or opening a checking account. So I think that there should be, and there has been a great movement. We now have a financial health movement, which is so exciting to me. And when we started SpringFour, nobody was talking about these underlying issues. There wasn't this concept that it's all connected, right? And if we work on one area, it makes, a person stronger and better. And so I think this is super exciting, and it's an opportunity that collectively as an industry, we can help people get more financially healthy, right? It's not that difficult to present people with options and resources. And I think the time has come. Right. We are seeing now that SpringFour is not a nice to have, it's a necessity. And our clients who are already using SpringFour are seeing the benefit of that during the pandemic.
Right. I know. And financial health, it's good. I mean, in some ways you are like 10 years ahead of your time, I think, because it's certainly now there's a lot more awareness. And even before the pandemic, we noticed, here at Lendit, where we, 2017, we started focusing on financial health and having its own standalone track. And 2017, we got, a small number of people. And then each year the interest has doubled pretty much. And now, like we had, I remember our 2019 event, there was a waiting list. There was a queue to get into the track
I love that.
because everyone was interested in it. And it is, I feel like that's one thing that I keep harping on, and that we really, fintech can make more of an impact here in financial health, and this really should be, I think, the main purpose of fintech is to really help increase financial health for everybody. And a lot of it is
absolutely,
a lot of it's information. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of it is just a lack of information
and choices.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we've really, I think it's good that we've made progress over the last 5 years, because I think now we really are bearing the fruits of that. So I'd like to get your perspective. You mentioned the last financial crisis, and I'd love to kind of get your perspective on what's different now from your perspective as far as the end user of your services, the borrowers that are struggling. What's different between 2008, 2009, and 2020?
Well, I mean, I think 2008 was really about home ownership and mortgage foreclosures. And so the people that were affected were homeowners. And I think now it's so vast, right? I mean, does anyone know anyone that has not been impacted or affected by COVID-19 and the pandemic, whether you have gotten sick or not? I mean, it's infiltrated every aspect of our lives. So this is going to be so much bigger. It's beyond just one industry. It's every single consumer out there. Which I think is one of the reasons why SpringFour is definitely a part of the solution, because we are almost a one-stop shop for any need that a consumer is facing, right? And we've intentionally built it that way. So that's why we have 25 plus service or spending categories. Really, when you think about anything that goes into a person's household budget, we try to make certain that we have a resource available for them to decrease the spend in that area. So I think that's one way that it's different. And I think the positive is that we've, in the last 10 or 12 years, have built up a lot of different information around financial health and products and innovation. It's so exciting, all of to me, the innovative fintech products that exist that are serving people who have not perfect credit or have financial, emergencies or challenges. And I don't think that was there in 2008. I really think we had a very much a dual finance market where it was traditional banking and, predatory, I believe, products.
Right.
So we've seen a really nice growth in innovative, affordable, responsible lending products. So that's my take on the end user.
For sure. It's actually, I mean, it's good that, as I said, that these things are now, there's much more option. There are many more options for the consumer when it comes to credit than there ever has been before. So we're running out of time. So a couple more questions I want to get to. So what's actually involved? If there's a lender that's listening, they say, it sounds interesting. What do you actually do? And you said it's 2 weeks to get up and running. And obviously you said it's independent of what kind of software they're running. What do you actually do? What do you implement at the lender so they can get up and running the SpringFour?
Sure. And one of the things I realized is I didn't talk about our digital solution. So our digital solution is having a huge success right now because, a lot of people can't get into a bank. Bank telephone lines can be overwhelmed and busy. So our digital solution, S4 Direct, is something, again, it can be up and running in 2 weeks, where we co-brand with a financial institution to put SpringFour on their website. It can be presented in many different ways. As I mentioned, a lot of banks are moving their SpringFour Direct tool to their COVID-19 page, but it can be in their financial health page, their savings page, mortgage assistance page, where essentially you're branding it and asking your customer, your borrower, are they looking for ways to save? And then they simply answer a couple of questions, put in their zip code, and they're directed to resources in their area for the categories that they want. But as far as working with us, it's a matter of, getting in touch with us. We'll work through the requirements on our digital solution, because it's all, the tech is all on our side. We run all the back end. So it really is 1 to 2 hours of IT time for our subscribers. We can even host a landing page and the website if a subscriber doesn't want to get into the weeds with their marketing team. And then our S4 Pro tool, the call center agent tool, it's really a matter of, we will train your team, or we can do a train the trainer approach. It usually takes about a half an hour. We assign user names and passwords, and the bank is up and running and utilizing it in their call center. So now, of course, that doesn't take into account like all the vendor compliance and risk management that goes through, but we're seeing banks understand that this is something that's really needed. And so they're putting more resources on that to get us through compliance quicker. It's not that we're not doing that compliance, but it's just the timeline has moved up, which is great. So the tool gets out there sooner.
Right, right. So I just want to be clear. You said, because obviously the Pro tool is digital as well. I mean, it's all digital, right? There's no.
Yeah. Yes.
The digital one is.
Yeah.
The digital is.
In the cloud.
Is that sort of more consumer facing when you said the digital
it's consumer facing. Sorry. So it's like, for lack of a better word, a widget that would appear on a lender's website, and the borrower would click on it and be able to self-serve 24/7 and get those resources themselves. And then what we're seeing works really well is when a call center agent has access to our Pro tool, which is in the cloud as well. They just log in at the beginning of their shift. They access SpringFour. When they send an email to that borrower, if the bank also has S4 Direct, they can include a link which allows that borrower to continue to go back to their bank to get resources whenever they need them. Unfortunately, there's a lot of multiple issues happening in people's lives. So, they could, be facing, need food assistance, 1 week, and, a few weeks later looking for help with a home repair or help with medical care costs. So that's, paired together, we see a lot of really great usage. Right.
Okay. So last question. This has been I'm sure a crazy year for many of us, and a crazy year, it sounds like, for SpringFour. So what are you, what are you working on strategically? What's next? Are you looking at, obviously just getting through the pandemic is probably the first goal for all of us, right? But I'd love to sort of see where you're taking this.
Yeah. Well, one thing that is front and center is that we launched 2 employer partnerships this year. I believe that, we started in the financial services industry. That's the space we knew. That was the problem we were trying to solve. But I'm very encouraged by this idea that employers understand that a good, an employee who has good financial health is positive for their company, for productivity, for their reputation as an employer. And so we are looking to launch more relationships and partnerships with employers so that employees can be better financially healthy. We're always enhancing our tech and increasing the number of markets, the number of service categories. So that's really where we're mostly focused. We're seeing a lot of increased desire for SpringFour to do API feeds and integrate into some financial apps. So look for that as well. And then the other thing is, we may be going international. This is a worldwide problem, and we're seeing interest from companies in other countries, mostly Canada and Australia. So you never know.
Interesting. Well, good luck. We'll have to leave it there. I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Rochelle.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Okay. See you.
Take care, Peter.
Mm-hmm.